Mike Hostetler, currently residing in Chicago area. I'm a programmer by trade, and in 2009 and a little bit prior to that, was blessed to be a part of a really successful open source project called jQuery. Was on the founding team of jQuery. And right after jQuery formed into a nonprofit, I started a services company providing services around jQuery to Fortune 500 companies that were adopting and pulling it in, training their staff. Unique thing about that, learning from jQuery, was that, and seeing an example of how people all over the world came together, collaborated, and built something that really made an impact and was amazing. And I took that experience and leveraged it in the company that I founded, Append2. And the second chapter of that actually just unfolded about a month ago, where I handed the day-to-day operations of the company off to my leadership team and stepped out and now manage from the parent company, a company called Epic Creative, and work from there to empower that team, train them, teach them how to work remotely, and kind of build up our processes for working remotely. The biggest thing that I really go back to every time I'm faced with a really tough choice is, what do I feel called to? What do I want my life to be about? Michael Hyatt actually talks about this a lot on his blog, if you follow him at michaelhyatt.com, but he has a great exercise called Building a Life Plan, and I've followed that now for about a year and a half. And I've written down, where I want to get to, and I let that kind of be the target that I'm aiming for. And then when I'm in this specific choice, between maybe two hard choices or an easy and a hard choice, I always try to compensate for, what's the higher road? What is the harder path? What's the path worth following, even if it is harder? And then the last component is, how do I best take care of the people that are following me and the people who have given and trusted me with their loyalty, with their families, just their livelihood. People, when they work for you, really buy in, and a big part of their life, whenever they work for a company, is defined by their employment at that company. And that is always really at the forefront of everything that I do when I try to make a decision, especially a hard one at work. As a mentor just put it to me, I'm the battalion chief back in the command post. And this is a new challenge for me, but I have a team who is very well equipped, well qualified, who has stepped into doing something that I've been doing for the last 4 years. And how the goal, the concept, and really the reason behind it was, as I lead people, you have to make space for them to grow. And where we were at as an organization, there wasn't a lot of extra room. And as a leader, the person taking up that room was me, and had to step out of that to give them that space. And when you give them that space to bring their own judgment, bring their own experiences to making choices that I've been making already, but for them, not involving them with, you have to give them a little bit of room to figure that out on their own. Not necessarily fail, but they just do it differently. Everybody's unique and how they tackle these things. And so understanding how to step back, give them the grace and room to go through that learning process, be right there beside them as they're learning, being supported but not doing it for them, it's an awesome learning experience. I have an awesome team, so they make it a real joy to do that. But that describes me today. My vision for the future is that our relationship with work is broken and needs fixing. And a couple of key things that come out of that statement, because it's a really big statement. So what works? If the past doesn't work, what works in the future? First is community and rallying people and understanding and equipping an organization with a foundation of we're all in this together. We take care of each other. It fills this really fundamental need that people have to just be a part of something. They want to be a part of something that's bigger than themselves. The interesting thing is that the result of properly creating this foundation of community is that you have, as a leader, more organizational wiggle room to deal with the hard choices that come. And because people are willing to throw in and really help the organization achieve its goals. That's the first thing, is community. Second is organizational and managerial leadership, I believe, is dying. Managerial leadership, for the most part, in my experience, can largely be automated. So micromanaging, just busy work managers, people don't put up with them anymore. Great managers who exhibit and are fantastic leaders that add value to their direct reports every day, there's a huge short supply of those. So moving people from the micromanaging leader, who I'm just keeping up with things, when a lot of that could be automated, based on reporting tools, what's going on, going to a leadership approach to management and a servant leadership approach to management, I think is a challenge that a lot of middle managers I know are going to have to go through. And then the last piece is understanding and coming to grips with talent has a lot of places they can go, especially in our industry. By 2020, there's going to be a yearly shortage of almost 1 million software developers every year that are not being produced by our university system, are not allowed to immigrate to this country because of the visa problem, and just lack of interest, because it's a hard career, it's a complicated career. So engineers are in very high demand, and you're forced to compete on very different levels to get things done. And when talent has choices, you have to get really creative in how to both attract and then retain that talent and tie them in longer term. And it's not just put your job role out and lots of people apply and you just pick the best. That is a growing issue, how management and how organizations will tackle that, because people are it, right? People make up the organization. If you don't have great people, you're up a creek. Big lessons I've learned over time, especially in a distributed environment. That was one of those harder road choices. When I started the company, made a lot of assumptions on, this will be easy. We hit every difficulty falling out of that tree. Not a bad thing, though, because the learning that came from it was really, really helpful. So going back to that foundation of community, tying people together with community is one of the most underrated yet powerful ways to engage your organization towards your core mission, your core purpose, which needs to be very sharply defined. We've gone back and forth on this ourselves. When a core purpose maybe resonates, but how do we achieve it? Doesn't work. It isn't big enough. So it's like, it doesn't get you excited. There's a lot of that process is really important in doing something that people can get excited about. And then I think we're also going into an era of what I call automated management, and understanding as management becomes more automated and frankly cheaper and more productive, how do all of the people that would be displaced by that shift their skills and shift the value that they create in an organization into leadership, and how does that work? How's that transition going to happen? I think that's going to be another big change that organizations are really going to need to face head on or get left behind, because the ones that will overtake them very quickly. In our industry, there's a startup called GitHub, and GitHub is a source code collaboration platform where developers who write open source code can come together and collaborate in real time. We don't have any managers, we're flat. Well, that worked till they got to like 125 people. There's a fantastic presentation by one of their early employees, Zach Holtman, how they went through this journey of no managers, flat, to, yeah, so we got managers now. We just don't call them managers. And how that happened. So they're one. There's a lot of other great examples out there. Valve Software, if you're in the software industry, Gore Industries, Semco in South America. There's a couple out there, but nothing that I've seen what it has achieved what I would call mass market appeal, or of making it easy for the mass market to adopt. Even things like holacracy, they're too different right now. That makes people nervous. Nervousness creates risk. Risk creates decision-making agony, slows the organization down. All these bad things result. So, like any change, it's got to come slowly. You got to give it to people in a really consumable format. But I do see people struggling with this now, and I think it's going to take a lot of time to change, but it's coming, especially for creative service sector positions.
Wow.